We blew up another village in an effort to suppress a war crime that was already going on in said village. And now we're now ready to continue our plans to assault like the main Hai Shidao forces and stop Gormit Sin from continuing to do this very, very awful idea he keeps having of trying to just be independent and aggressive to every neighboring nation.
There's a lot to unpack, especially regarding the last 20 or so years of history.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Ron Perlman was right. War never changes.
No. See, I was thinking some motherfucker's always going to be ice skating uphill, but that was
No, that's Wesley Snipes. That's the thing.
Wow. That's probably the first time in human history anyone's confused those two individuals.
Yeah, you'd think that'd be pretty hard, too.
Welcome to a disturbing insight into the inside of my brain.
Yeah. But yeah, here we go. We're on another big battlefield. Technically a whole lot of ETs we could destroy, but this is not a mission where we have to destroy a certain percentage of the enemy forces. Instead, we have to go hunting around for the commanding units on the enemy side, which is comprised of 3 Juggernauts.
Oh.
But it's okay, we're going in with the other Regal Dress model, the Regal Dress A. A standing for artillery, hence why our sidearms for this mission are some of the biggest, baddest, long-range missile and howitzers you can imagine. That howitzer is 550 millimeters, I should let you know.
With that, you don't need targeting. You just shoot it in the general vicinity and hope the blast radius takes them out.
Yeah, I think we've now reached the point where we've hit the mecha equivalent of the Berserk description of Guts' sword, and that calling it a sword isn't even accurate, more like a giant slab of metal. We're at that point.
Less artillery, more orbital weaponry.
Yeah. Oh man. And a fun fact with this mission, this also took me quite a number of tries to get right because of how, it should be no surprise that when I ever play these missions in my off time, especially, in a campaign file, I'm always going with a unit that has a railgun. It's because that's kind of the best option you can ask for if you're trying to deal with the Juggernauts. Because, unlike at the end of Campaign 1, where you had, the ruined Capitol building to use as cover when taking just that one out, you're in a very big open field with 3 of them at different corners. Fortunately, they aren't bunched up in a way that would make it otherwise, I think, impossible to effectively deal with. Just one Juggernaut's already enough of a hassle with any other unit. Especially because of their railgun.
And I was going to say, I have the sneaking suspicion some shrubbery ain't going to do shit against them.
Nope, it absolutely will not.
Just shouting really loudly, "Fuck off, I'm a tree!" Well, he would know.
Yeah. Just turn into a giant windmill like that one, Gundam from G Gundam. The Neo Holland, I think it was. The Neo Holland Gundam that technically managed to get to the finals by virtue of just camouflaging with other windmills and just waiting until all the other Gundams had killed each other off. I am not making that up.
That kind of rank opportunism.
Yeah. Also, hope you appreciate the best song from Macross Plus.
I actually need to go back and watch that because I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
Yeah, it's Plus is alright. I do think the animation and production values on that front are really good. Especially and also the YF-19 still remains my favorite design of any mecha in Macross by a long shot.
I always kind of felt that the one thing that Macross didn't really have on the human side was variety of design, which kind of a disappointment one of the reasons why I'm not as big on it as I am other series. Because aside from like,
every VF more or less has to have like the same style of like modes and like tactics that go with it.
Other than like paint jobs and the real minutia, which most people don't particularly care for, 90% of them look very, very similar.
They do, but it's like the thing that's more interesting to look at the evolution of units in Macross is less like what type of like different forms and like I guess like the core silhouette of how they look. It's more just like the mechanisms behind their transformation. Because I think that's why I like the YF-19 the most, is because you look at the original Macross 1 units and how they transformed. And then you compare it to like the specific mechanisms that go into how the YF-19 transforms. It is like a huge step up.
Yes, it's kind of like, the way I always looked at it is, it's like the evolution of jet fighters in real life.
It absolutely is.
There's small differences in like wing formation and so forth that you're just like, yep, that looks like it's at a slightly different angle to that one, but real actual aeronautics enthusiasts would just be like, no, you don't understand, this is revolutionary, and you're just like, yep, that's a wing.
Yeah, that is pretty much like very accurate. Like, there's always like minor differences as far as like what type of, the way certain parts will like transform and fold in on themselves in order to access different modes, as well as different kinds of supplementary weapons. But obviously, like, no matter the generation, a VF's always going to have a gun pod and a shitload of missiles.
And big arms.
Yeah. That said, though, like, I know you said you had like watched like a few episodes of like Delta, but did not like proceed all the way through it. Just kind of dropped off and like did other stuff. And I don't know how far enough you got in to see it, but the thing that I like about Delta is that like the main conflict is that it's basically like VFs versus VFs, and it's the sort of thing where I've noticed it especially across all the series is that when there's like a new VF design and there's actual genuine differences in terms of like how the mechanism for transforming works, they'll actually take the time to highlight it by giving like a kind of a slower transformation sequence between, from fighter to Gerwacht and Batroid. With a lot of like the regular UN Spacey units, they've not had to do that for several series at this point, just because the YF-19 was the first big change, and then everything else was like kind of a slow increment. But the enemy transforming units, like they get that slow-mo treatment for showing off the transformation, because it is another case of they come up with something genuinely different to differentiate it from like the good guys, and it's real sick looking.
Yeah, again, it's one that I've been meaning to give another try, because, as I said, at the time it was like, well, it's okay, but it's, okay isn't enough to keep me watching right now. And like when it comes to shows like that, I always mean to go back and give them another try, just to see if, maybe it's worth another shot, or if I just wasn't feeling it at the time,
Right.
Because Certain Magical Index is one which I know that I would absolutely love it, because it is exactly my kind of shit. But every time I go to try and watch it, I just keep bouncing off it for some reason.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It's annoying, because I know that some of the stuff later on is fantastic, but just getting there, I'm like, yep, it's an annoying girl at school. Haven't seen that one before. Yep, she's annoying. She's stoic. Yeah, cool. Can I go watch, I don't know, literally anything else right now? That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's just a bit too tropey in some ways.
Yeah, it gets real cliche.
Yeah.
Wagon Master, this is X-Ray 1. Do you copy? Over.
This is Wagon Master.
Yep, already having to make a second supply run as well, because that's just how it goes when you're dealing with a Juggernaut. There's actually one detail about it that it happened during my practice runs, and unfortunately I could not get it to show up in this successful run, because I feel like like that specific attack combined with successful run, I think just does not mix, because if you get hit with it, you might as well prematurely eject. The railgun, it actually has the effect of, it doesn't really like knock you flat on your ass if you get hit by it. It actually shuts down your systems and you have to reboot.
Ah, dicks.
Yeah, it's like, because I had mentioned it with the rapier and how its stun rod basically does that, like at short range but like minimal damage. Yeah. Railgun, that's basically its secondary effect on top of dealing a whole lot of damage. It's why, it's something that I had never really like paid enough attention to really notice before until I was running this mission and failing multiple times, was that when you hit certain units with the railgun, especially big heavy ones like the Juggernaut, it doesn't knock them on the ground. It just causes them to like reel their upper body back while still standing straight up. Because that's not them like getting knocked out and disoriented. That's literally their systems going offline because of the electrical surge of the railgun.
Ah.
Yeah, and because I couldn't, and the reason why I say you could not really get that in a successful run, I feel like, is because the time it takes when you're having to quickly reboot, you still have to go through things relatively in the same order. You can't like lightning fast just hit all the buttons and toggle switches in order, because it all finishes once you hit the start button at the exact moment when all the bars are above the proper threshold. And you're a sitting duck, and they can just keep shooting at you, and it's like, okay, I basically lost this mission.
Yeah, something I was meaning to ask. If you quit out mid-mission, does that count, like, just, like, turn the Xbox off entirely? For example. Does that not count as a loss, or...
Oh, you mean, like, if you were to just turn the system off, like a hard shutdown?
Yeah.
In the campaign, so this is... I remember trying this before, and it was clearly an example of them doing, like, a bit of safe scum protection.
Yeah.
When you hit start on a mission, it basically saves a file under the assumption that you started that mission and then lost the unit.
Ah.
But when you complete the mission, it overwrites it to go, okay, you started that mission and you got through it with your unit intact. That's how they get around it.
That's kind of like a forerunner to what they did in the Soulsborne series as well.
Yeah, with the
with it constantly saving every like minute and a half or so.
Kinda, but I think that's also gone the round of by the fact that you can still manually exit out to the start menu, and how that basically is like a way to kind of get around a potential like death auto saving. Because I've seen that in certain speedruns or whatever, where like if someone's trying to go over like a very precarious narrow ledge or something and accidentally fall off, they'll very quickly bring up the pause menu, go to exit to main menu, and then just like get it before the you died screen even shows up. Unfortunately, Steel Battalion just it does not have that. So yeah, you start the mission, it'll act like you've lost that unit until you prove it otherwise.
Just like, nope, you're boned. It's up to you to prove us wrong.